Okay, here we go. I watched Bienvenidos amigos y seguidores del programa a una edición muy especial de Scarif Podcast. Estamos aquí esta noche y esta semana se estrenó la nueva serie de Disney Plus Andor con Diego Luna. Estamos listos a dar nuestra opinión y hablar de esta serie. Vamos a saludar a nuestro anfitrión, Brad. ¿Cómo se encuentra esta noche, Brad?
Hey, you need to speak American.
What? ¿Qué la chi?
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Well, after a little technical difficulty, our universal translator was switched over, but thank you very much for stopping. Look at everybody in the chat. It's a wonderful evening here on the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Brad, how you doing?
Much better now that you're speaking English. Now I can relate to you. And maybe we can have a decent conversation now.
Well, before you couldn't relate to me because you were not speaking Spanish and you didn't migrate from anywhere.
No, that's God forbid. I don't know why we're even talking about Andor because I watched 3 shows and didn't understand it at all. Now, I don't know if that's because
you had the captions on Spanish or French.
French, yes.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. Absolutely. Couldn't relate, but thank you, everyone. This is a special Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Oh, they're all special. Come on. Yeah. They're all special because look at all the wonderful people in the chat. We got, let me see. I'm going to go back over here. Let's put up some wonderful comments from everyone. Can you guess who was first?
Wow. I don't know. We got so many awesome fans these days.
Danny from Comics and Cosmetics. She got here half an hour early. Thank you very much, Danny. Megan is here too. Hey, what's up, Megan? And G-Force Racing, thank you so much for stopping by. The ever so wonderful Melanie is here as well. And our new Red 5 member, because she's over at, or he's over at Scarif After Dark, Sith Care Bear.
Nice.
Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. And let's see. Oh, my friend and yours, Lunar Girl. What's up, Lunar Girl? Thank you very much for wielding the blue wrench. We're going to make sure that everybody is under control. And speaking of control, we got Emotional Evolution. Hello there.
I thought you were going to say Joker voice.
Speaking of control,
we can't start until JV's here.
Absolutely. So let's see. Vader, very thanks for showing up. Was it last week or this week? I thought you had an event happening. Maybe it was last week, but anyways, yeah. Tina's in the house. What's up, Tina? Always good to see our friends and Dragon Buddy. Thank you, Dragon Buddy. Let's see. We have some Dave's Dimensions is in here. May the force be with everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming by.
Pretty awesome
pretty good
chat.
It is. Really awesome chat. And looks like we have Shanti in the back room here. Her little icon is still gray, so I think maybe she's warming up or something's happening over there. But we will get Shanti in here relatively soon and make sure that we start talking. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, we don't have much to talk about. It's 3 episodes of I don't know what that was. No, we're going to be talking about Andor, and I think you and I have some differing opinions on it, but not for the reasons some other people put on.
Yeah,
I like you and I chatted after you watched it, and I like everything you had to say, but I have some issues with it. Not for and we'll just talk about. Maybe it's not an elephant in the room. Maybe it's already dead. If anybody was wondering about our intro, some idiot, I don't know who he was, posted on Twitter that this is the only reason I can do this show with Ro right now. Is
because I'm your token Mexican.
Yeah. So we have a Mexican here. If you're white, you can't talk about Andor because you just won't understand it. And tweets like that don't get us anywhere. I believe tweets like that, although they are trying to be anti-racist, end up being some of the most racist things out there on the internet. Let's face it, the United States is a country of immigrants. That's what makes it so great. Every group of people got here at different times and had to face different levels. I mean, obviously some were way worse than others is what they had to face, but having Irish immigrants in my family, they did not have it easy when they got here. And it's just idiotic to put something like that. And we don't need that kind of crap, and it's just divisive.
Absolutely. Here.
And now I want to put that one to bed and continue so we can actually have a real conversation. And Shanti's here.
And Shanti's here. What's up, girl?
Hello. Sorry for being late. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We how many times did you guys watch the first 3 episodes of Andor?
Just once, because I haven't had time to watch
I didn't
it
get
again.
a chance.
Yeah, so I was I wanted to watch it again because I was on a stream with Paulie at the Latino Slant, and he was bringing up some things that I didn't catch the first time around. So I wanted to, with my trusty note and my wonderful penmanship, I wanted to be able to kind of jot some notes down on those first 3 episodes. I've got a lot of notes, but we also have some really great comments from our friends on Twitter. And I also want to encourage everyone in the chat to chime in. We will put up your comments up on screen and touch on them as well.
Those are some really great talking points that you got from Twitter. So
yeah,
I look forward to discussing some of those.
Absolutely. All right. So first round, episode 1 called Casa. Mikasa Sukasa? Something like that?
There you go again. Not speaking basic. Sorry, I thought I was going to drop it. Never mind.
But the first episode. Let me. I'm going to ask you guys what you thought of the first 3. But actually, I want to say that originally it was going to be the first 2 episodes that dropped at the same time. Then they said 3 episodes, which I think was a genius move, and we'll get to that towards the end after we kind of distill the first 2. But 3 episodes I feel work pretty damn well in the scope of what we saw. And again, we'll get to it. But what
it needed to be 3. I just like when Boba started, I would have felt very incomplete. I don't remember exactly where the second episode ended off, but I just know if it had stopped there, it would have felt very incomplete. So I agree with you. I think 3 was the right answer in this one.
3 was perfect. So that first episode, what did you guys? I'm always nervous when I start a new Star Wars show. It's
what is wrong with you?
You want to give our ratings? Want to give our 0 out of 10? How many stars before we get going?
Per episode or for the whole thing?
For the whole thing. For the first 3
I'm
episodes.
treating this like as one.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. I agree.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How many stars, Ro? You first.
Out of how many?
10.
10.
Out of 10?
Yeah.
Wow. 9.7.
9.7. Shanti?
9.5.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be weird for me. I am the lowest of the 3, and maybe it's because I said I wouldn't do it again. I just can't relate to this show. I'm going to give this start. I know this number is going to go up, but I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay, that's fine
to start off with.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you what my issues are as we go along. But
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. So one of the things that I wrote down in my notes, and we'll start right off the bat. Paulie over at Latino Slant was talking about certain, Hispanic things that he picked up on, some anti-Latino things also that he picked up on, and obviously there was this whole controversy before the show came out about immigrants and that aspect of the show, which again I'm not really seeing a lot of that. I'm not seeing any of it right now. To me it's a really entertaining science fiction show.
Are you saying like in real life external to the show that there's anti, or are you saying in the show there's anti-Latino?
I think what he was talking about is in the show there are references to outside anti-Latino immigration.
There was
or
there was that, but unlike other projects that we've talked about on the show, it wasn't like in your face,
right,
and just shove it in your face, and it was, I think it was subtle enough to get the point across. But this is not a new thing for Star Wars, though.
right,
Like, it used to be. Now they have Imperials that are of other races.
sure,
But back when it came out between 77 and 83, the Empire was all white. It was
They're
all white British guys,
right,
and that kind of carried on into the fiction of the 80s and 90s, where they turned that into they were just a very xenophobic organization,
right.
and they didn't like any alien species or anything like that. So this has been a theme for a long time in Star Wars. So, but I think they did it right. I think it was subtle.
Yeah, that was my point. I think if there's any underlying tones of that sort of thing in this show in particular, I think it's being done on such a light level. I think I don't think we've scratched the surface too. I mean, we're 3 episodes in, we're getting a lot of history, a lot of backstory for Andor and some of the characters and some of the situations. There's a lot of world building in here. And I know a lot of people were like, this is just doesn't feel like Star Wars. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But what do you guys think of I guess the one of the biggest things that people were kind of complaining about was the pacing. Brad, you and I, we were texting immediately after that you were watching. I think you were watching the second show, and you had texted me and says something has got to happen or it's got to pick up. But what do you think of the pacing? We'll go around the table, Brad. You first.
That was one of my drivers for putting it down at a 6 right now. Just based off the trailers and everything. I thought all the slow stuff was going to be maybe packed into the first episode, and it was going to. So first off, how many episodes are there going to be total?
12.
Okay, so 12. All right, so it's got plenty of time to pick up. But I just thought it was pretty slow, especially compared to your normal Star Wars story. I thought it was pretty slow. I'm sure episodes 4 and 5 is probably going to pick up quite a bit. But I did feel it was slow, and that was one of my major issues with the show.
Okay. Shanti, what about you?
I had no issues with the pacing.
Right. Yeah.
As someone who keeps saying that I can't stand these 6-episode arcs that they've been doing, like with Boba Fett and Kenobi, they've made it feels rushed, like they tried to pack it all into 6 episodes. So for me, now we've got 12. I like that they're now finally taking their time, because it feels now like, okay, you actually finally have a story to tell. Because even in the 6-episode arcs that we've gotten, there's been at least 1 episode that's been filler. So it's like they ran out of ideas or ran out of story for these other 2 shows. So for me, the fact that you were able to stretch it to 12, and you gave us so much backstory in those first 2 episodes and then led into the third one, I personally had no problem with the pacing, especially since you were doing flashbacks, which they did much better than
Yeah.
I mean, the flashbacks were amazing, and you got an idea of what the timeline was. So for me, I had no problem with pacing, but I'm also someone who will throw up Gone with the Wind at a moment's notice and literally sit there for 4 hours and watch it. So for me, as long as it's keeping me entertained, I really don't care if it took two episodes to tell that story.
So, getting back to my original comment when I said that it was a great idea to keep this as a 3-episode premiere, because we did get a nice, I guess, conclusion to both of those stories when it came to the flashbacks and when it came to the main story. That last 2 minutes of the 3rd episode was phenomenally emotional. You had, the child Andor getting, picked up off of that ship and then, brought to Marva's ship, and they're taking off, they're running away. You have the adult Cassian that's doing the same thing. They're both looking at the sunset. You take a look at that last 2 minutes, and it is, I gotta say, it is in a way that Star Wars has never been. That's pretty damn artsy. A lot of the shots are long, brooding, methodical. They seem to be planned out and timed out so perfectly that it gives you, the audience, it gives you the opportunity to really dive deep into the meaning of the character moments there. You have that character that's looking at all the destruction when Cassian and what's his name escape. There's something going on with that character. And then, those beautiful shots of them speeding off on the speeder with over what looks like rice patties in Vietnam. I mean, those are some beautiful, beautiful shots.
Yeah. And I agree with Bravo in the chat. He said if they'd only dropped one episode, probably would not have been received as well.
Sure.
I think that's true. But the way, like what you're saying, they really, that was its own arc all by itself, those 3 episodes. And I like the way they're doing the flashbacks. Like you said, I think, every time they do a flashback, it's germane to whatever's going on in the present. So the way they're interweaving those flashbacks into it. And we've talked about this before. I think this gives, a lot of good backstory. I thought that was one of the silliest lines in Rogue One, although, we've talked about, we love that movie. But when he says, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old, although he doesn't look 6 in those, but whatever, I'm not going to nitpick that. I thought that was a pretty silly line, being in a fight since he was 6 years old. But now they're doing these flashbacks and it's all working out perfectly. So I think that is very well done.
Sure. We get in Rogue One, you get a jolt with Cassian killing that informant in cold blood. Something similar happens at the top of this show, and you get to see him do the same thing. I think there's a line that he says, which I think tells me a lot of his character at this point in time. When he deflects the attacks of these 2 police officers, these 2 cops, one of them is on the ground and the other one, realizes that the other guy is dead and he's freaking out. And Cassian grabs the gun and points it to the other guy and he says, "Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. What should I do?" And he's got this like internal rage. Obviously you can tell that he's searching for his sister, but he's got this internal angst that I hope we start to unfold in the next the subsequent episodes. What do you think of Cassian at this point in time, character wise?
Oh my God. He's still such a mystery to me, honestly. I mean, without getting more of the backstory of it, and especially why he's looking for the sister, that's the biggest puzzle for me right now. So, I mean, obviously, seeing him kill like that once again, kind of cold-blooded, he's clearly a badass, but it's amazing how he almost seems to have no issue with it. So I want to know what got him to that point where he just has like no problem, seems to have no guilty conscience about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to disagree with a little bit. Like I can't tell if this is the first time he's killed from this one. To me, it seems like it is the first time he's killed, but I could be completely wrong on that. But seeing his face on Rogue One after he killed that guy, the informant. Like you can see, like each time he kills, it's like taking the life, it's sucking the life out of him as well. Like he's just so sick of doing it at that point.
Sure.
But it's yeah, it's definitely he's definitely still very mysterious. And someone mentioned the different backstories that are growing around him. I like that kind of a international man of mystery type thing. But I like how the kills are definitely eating at him, I think.
Yeah, and the comment about him being in the fight since he was 6 years old. I mean, it seems like even in the early flashbacks, he's alone. It's just him and the other kids. There's no
Right.
adults for some reason. We will probably find out why. But that also could be part of the fight that he's talking about. I think the
Right.
fight might be a generic term where he has struggled in his life since he was 6 years old. Because we
True.
do see him, alone with his sister and the rest of these children on this planet. What are they doing? What happened to everybody else? And we'll get to that because later on there's a line that someone says regarding the home planet of Canary, which is interesting to me. But yeah, Stephen Kent was on Twitter talking about how it's interesting that we're 3 episodes in, we see no imperial forces on any of these planets. We don't see their presence, and I find that interesting because it is a big galaxy, and I think from what we know from the expanded universe, I don't think and Brad, please correct me if I'm wrong, the Empire wasn't everywhere. It needed the local authorities to kind of help them keep order. And we see a line in the original Star Wars that I think it was Tarkin that says, fear will keep these systems in line, fear of this battle station. So it's interesting. And then seeing Solo, we've got the Imperials working kind of in cahoots with the underworld. So there's another collaboration between Empire and underworld criminal forces that I guess allows them not to to really be in control, but through a proxy.
Yeah, and that was another one of my grade drivers down to 6 is just because I love seeing the Empire in Star Wars. Obviously, that was another one of my grade drivers. It's nice to see the local boys, as it were, finally getting involved in stuff that they should be involved in. But yeah, you're right. Unless there was the Empire was most places, but unless the planet had certain strategic value, whether it be location or there would be certain resources, that sort of thing, they weren't on every single planet. Once they found out that they had something very valuable, or it was a key location for hyperspace routes or whatever, then they would take over the planet, working with the local governments. Use that term lightly. They're still just take it over. But yeah, I just wanted to see the Empire, but it is more realistic them not being everywhere all the time.
Yeah,
I agreed with Andrew's previous comment that I don't even think we should be taking these flashbacks as him being 6 years old. I had the same thought that I think 6 years old is probably when he lost his parents, and these kids have probably been fending for themselves for a lot longer than we think. I made a comment earlier in the Fulcrum chat room that's like Lord of the Flies, Star Wars edition. So who knows how long those kids have been fending for themselves. He's clearly not 6, and I don't think we're supposed to. Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that goes back to what you were saying, Ro, as far as why there's just kids. So that would make perfect sense.
Yeah. Sure. And they talk about a mining accident, and I think that's the Empire's.
Oh, that was so great. I love the parallel in that line.
Yeah.
Everyone's loving that line.
Another mining accident.
Yeah, exactly. We lost Jeddah to a mining accident. And it's pretty interesting. It's funny because back with when we only had the original trilogy, we kind of had to fill in the gaps with a lot of story elements. We're getting a lot more story that helps us definitively fill in some gaps regarding the rise of the Empire within this time period. Obviously, we have the prequels, and all roads lead to, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, it's interesting, and I think Tony Gilroy has really crafted a world here in this series that is very unlike anything we've ever seen before. And I want to touch on a comment that has been made on Twitter. Brad, I texted a screenshot to you regarding Nick Schaefer over at Backyard TARDIS. I actually said that this is something that Star Wars needs in order for it to evolve. It's a certain deliberate storytelling that is a little bit more adult. I joke around and I say there's no cute green aliens with daddy issues, but this story really has an adult feel. It's a thriller. Besides the production design of everything that we've seen in Andor, which is amazing. It's interesting to me. So getting back to my comment, Brad, I told you that this is what Star Wars needs to get to inject new life into it when it comes to new narratives, new storylines, new characters, and not only a new timeline, because obviously we are kind of wedged in that OT timeline still, and I know a lot of people have a problem with it, but as long as the stories are well told and well crafted, I can stay in this OT period forever. The galaxy is a big galaxy. What do you think about the comment? And I know you had your issues with that, Brad.
So what the comment I believe you're talking about, he said specifically, I want it to feel like Star Wars in the 70s, and if they can't deliver that, then just make some new property. So to that comment specifically,
and that was from Backyard TARDIS.
Backyard TARDIS.
Nick Schaefer, thank you, Nick.
So I think what they need to keep doing is putting out content for all age ranges, and there's no reason why they can't. Keep putting out the stuff. Keep putting out the cartoons for the kids. With that original feel to it, and because we want to keep having new viewers, and they can grow up again with Star Wars. As they grow up and become more mature, then you introduce them to more of the stories that are a little more adult in nature. But keep making the content for the kids. Make the kids want to go to Disney World so they can get all their money there at at Disney. But also make these stories as well for those of us who have grown up with this saga. I agree with you, Ro. I can't go with the exact same formula every single time. I think the content has to grow up with the audience. I think his comment is completely valid, and part of me does agree with you, Nick. I think I can definitely see why you said that, but I think we're not the same age as when we saw the original trilogy, or when we saw the prequels, or even the sequels. So I think the stories need to grow up with the audience, and but you can still keep it in universe. There's some comments. I don't think they're inserting we've talked about this. I don't think they're inserting too many real world. I would think something like racism or xenophobia, if you want to take it to the extreme, would be universal concepts. Right. And I don't think they're doing it in I would call them out on it if I thought they were, but in this one, I think it's completely, suited for the story. You're talking about the Empire is an organization that would ransack a planet and make the inhabitants go everywhere. If you've been living on your, people can't imagine sometimes moving out of their town to the next town over. Some people would be scared shitless to go to the next state over. Well, now think about the immigrant process from, one country to the next, and what you have to go through for that. Now put it on a galactic scale. You've been on Earth all your life, and now this alien organization has taken over your planet, and now you have to go to another planet. So these are not just Earth, real world issues. I think they're very much applicable in the Star Wars universe. So yeah, I do like what they're doing with the story and making it a little more serious this time.
Shanti, what do you think?
You know me, I have no problem with it. I'm not. I know Andrew just wrote there that Star Wars is a family product, but I don't know if I actually really agree with that. I mean, having watched the original trilogy with my younger nieces and stuff, and things like that. There are things in the original trilogy that I don't actually find that are for kids. You can even make the argument that there are things going on in the prequels that are not for kids. I mean, honestly, I don't find Star Wars really to be for one core target audience. I've always found the original trilogy to actually be very much in the dark side. So I have no problem with this show going a little bit more adult. And it's not like there aren't other properties out there of Star Wars that are for kids. I mean, to be quite honest, I find the Bad Batch to be very kiddie, which is why I can't seem to get into it. That's for the kids. I mean, as long as there is something for everybody,
Sure.
and you're not just trying to cater to the kids or just trying to cater to the adults, I'm okay. And I feel like there is a good enough balance with Star Wars, but at the same point, yeah, I do want the grittiness. I mean, I know I get it. We're not in the 70s anymore, so obviously things are going to look different. But I think this show is doing a good job of kind of replicating that grit. I mean, it does feel like I'm watching Rogue One again.
Absolutely.
And, having been previously canceled on social media for calling out woke bullshit, I would be the first one in line if I thought this one was littered with that woke shit. I would call them out in a heartbeat.
Right.
Sure.
And I don't think it is. I think the message is genuine and applicable.
Yeah.
To answer Bravo's question, it was an interview with Diego Luna that obviously being of Mexican descent, he was talking about migration and people moving from one place to another. So that's where that came from. Star Wars is interesting because, it's been around for decades, and the people that love Star Wars when it first came out were kids, and now we're adults. So it's, Brad, I like what you said about having them continue to do Star Wars for all ages. Obviously we've got the kiddie stuff, and then we've got the more adult stuff. This is definitely obviously in the adult aspect of things. Because we want to draw them in. I think, I do tend to believe that if Star Wars stayed stagnant and did the same thing over and over and over again, I think some of the older fans might just be, I don't know if we'd be tired of it, but I don't think we would find the fascination in Star Wars as much as we do.
What was that sequel cartoon that they made that you said you kind of, I don't remember what the hell the name of that show was.
Yeah, 2 seasons. I don't remember.
But there's somebody liked it.
Resistance.
Yeah. So somebody liked it. But Disney Plus is now an infinite platform where they can put this material. So like my kids love, like when they put all those Lego specials on there. Those Lego specials are great.
Right. Sure.
And that's one of those things where both adults and kids can enjoy that stuff. So
I think it also makes a difference, obviously, if you have children. For me, I don't have kids. I'm 36, on my own kind of thing. So for me, like, I've never really watched any of those Star Wars Lego things because that's not the kind of actual animation that I want to see. And I know that is definitely specifically geared towards kids. So I may not find it very entertaining. I'll probably think it's cute, but I know I'll finish watching it saying this was just not for me. And that's fine. And that's totally fine. I'm glad that I do feel like there is something for everybody in the Star Wars universe.
I want to put this comment up from Josh. I need it to resonate with the child in me. And I want to push back. Go watch Resistance.
So I see. I think now we're getting to the point where if they try to do that, they're like almost crossing the streams. Like I think they tried to do that with the sequel trilogy. Like I'm going to go there. I'm going to say, well, with all of them, but with The Last Jedi in particular, where they're trying to make a serious movie, but they're making your mama jokes at the same time. So I think they were trying to do that. And I don't know if that's a lost art now. I don't know. Maybe George Lucas just hit a bit of genius with that. He was able to do that. But I think now I'm not sure if they can do that. I'm not sure if they can make a story that's adult enough for the major audience while tapping into, your inner child. I don't think they can do it anymore. So I'm okay with them making different projects within Star Wars that are geared towards, whatever age level or however you want to feel. So, and, going back to the pacing, I think my problem with the,
go,
he's not going far. He ain't going far. My problem with the pacing, talking about different audiences is I'm just not used to that for Star Wars. Had it been just another show that I was just watching, for the first time, I think pacing would have been fine. I'm just putting that in comparison to normal Star Wars stories. I just wasn't used to that for Star Wars. Yeah. If I was just watching it as a new Netflix show, it would have been fine as far as the story goes.
Yes. I want to get into a little bit. This is going to be, there are some seeds, we talk about, really, we haven't seen any like real world, politics or real world scenarios that are embedded into this Star Wars story. But let me remind everyone that, I feel that good science fiction is always an allegory to what's happening in the real world. It's if it's done well, obviously nothing that is shoved down your throat, but really good science fiction does make you go, there are seeds that I see in the first 3 episodes of Andor that I think they're going to tease out. And obviously one of them is getting back to the whole migration thing, is the colonialism of the Imperial forces and the taking advantage of lesser systems, lesser powers to exploit them for their resources, making those people migrate or move to another planet or spread out. You obviously have, real world examples of that. You also have a little bit of the seeds that are starting to be being implanted with the corporate police officer Linus Mosk, when he tells the other guy that you need a strong hand with these affiliated planets, and he starts talking about the fact that they need to crush the pockets of fomentation, and it almost seems like he is wanting to be a fan of the Empire. He is wanting to I think the brainwashing aspect of loving the totalitarian regime is starting to embed itself in this story. So I think he's the seed. What do you guys think of that?
I thought that was the only part that it may have been a little bit heavy-handed, because somebody mentioned the word Trumpian in the chat. That was, you could kind of get those vibes from that conversation. So that may have been the only one that was a little bit heavy-handed as far as translating that. But no, it made sense. But I also love, in like the same conversations, they're talking about the Empire bringing order, really to these systems and, putting down these pockets. But at the same time, they're showing how corrupt they are. They're talking about how, these guys died in an unfortunate accident.
Right. Brush it under the table.
Yes, because, they're drinking on the job. They're taking bribes and handouts and stuff like that.
They're at brothels that they shouldn't be able to afford.
So they want the Empire to come to bring order, but they're corrupt as hell. So I thought that was pretty well done there.
And there's a line really too that he says the best way to keep the blade sharp is to use it. That is pretty heavy-handed as well. Andrew at the Science Fictionary and Radio Court. Oh, he's got a little combo name over here. That's cool. I understand that Star Wars isn't really science fiction. I was just trying to make a point. So there. What else here? Yeah, I mean, so what'd you guys think of the second episode? We learn obviously that Cassian is getting discovered.
Yep.
He is Canary. And I think we're getting a little history of it. Early on when they announced this show, and we started to see a little bit of some production behind the scenes stuff, there was an aerial shot of the town that was built. Obviously, the Mandalorian, they just shot everything on the volume and everything was just right there. But I was so happy to see the production being built out as an entire city that that this show was going to be shot on. And you can tell there's a shitload of extras. There's tons of characters walking back and forth.
It's not Tatooine. It's not
Tatooine,
ghosted right? Tatooine.
Five
people in town.
I loved it.
That was a thought I had. I was like, oh god,
5 people and 5 Vespas.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But you know what?
Yes, Amanda's got some great comments in the chat room. I'm just like, so I agree. Tim was a dick. Screw that guy.
Yeah, screw Tim.
And she also had a comment a couple minutes ago. Another one of my 6 drivers. I want some Mon Mothma in my life as well.
Yeah.
I'm going out to sea in a week, and I didn't get any Mon Mothma before I go out to sea. So I think they could have done maybe Well, I think once we watch the 12 episodes together, I think it'll be a nice pace, a nice story. But screw Tim. I think they could have done maybe some of the galactic level stuff at the same time as they're talking about the local level. That's just me being selfish. I just want to see the Empire, and I want to see Mon Mothma doing her thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's too funny. Yeah.
Tim's an ass.
Tim is an ass.
But this show was announced back in 2017.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 2017, wow. And obviously they had to wait until after 2019 for Diego Luna to finish the Narcos series. But in the interim, which I find this to be an amazing thing, because if they did this for Andor, why the hell did they not do it for the rest of the shows? They because they had time. They I think it was Tony Gilroy and his brother, they developed a pilot script, and they also developed a series Bible, which basically is a pre-production and planning of all the elements, all the world building that needs to be done. And it's basically kind of like the structured formula of this series going forward before they, shot one thing. I mean, that seems like there's a lot of planning going on there. What happened to planning in the other Star Wars?
Hey, I got a question for you. Remember many years ago where George Lucas said he wanted to do a live action show?
Yeah.
First, do you think that this show would be along the lines of what George would have done with that? Or do you think it would have been too serious for that?
No, I think he was doing experimentation with technology, and I think the Young Indiana Jones series was the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles was the test ground, and I think that was the test ground more so for the prequels because it was before the prequels. So that was the test ground for that. He obviously wanted to create cinematic looking projects without having to spend so much money to be able to do it on the small screen. As far as tone, it might be too serious. One of the things that I read was that Andor was supposed to be 5 seasons, but they scale it down because they said there's no way that we can maintain the complexity and the expense of creating the show that looks like Andor does now for 5 seasons. And that's why they just cut it down to 2.
Disney suddenly has a budget.
Yeah. Well, they got investors. I understand. I get it. But as the technology grows, obviously each season of The Mandalorian looks a little better than the previous. One was great. We had it was kind of like the shiny new thing on the block. 2 looked really great, and obviously 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett were like, whoa, what's going on here? So those were great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to season 3 of Mando to see what else we get. But Andor certainly looks a hell of a lot different than any other Star Wars that we've gotten, and I might want to say including some of the films.
Yeah. That's actually probably what brought it down to a 9.5 for me a little bit, because
down to a 9.5.
I know, that half and the blue noodles.
Yeah.
That threw me off. My thing is now. Oh, okay, the brothel. So one of the first things, yeah, I know. Only I would bring up the brothel.
There should have been more brotheling in that brothel for sure.
Yes, exactly. No, one of the first thoughts that I had when he walked in and started talking to whoever she is, I guess the madam there or whatever, I get it. We're in different planets, so I get we're used to a very specific look in Star Wars. But one of the first things I felt was like, this looks like something out of Star Trek. This part doesn't look like Star Wars. That's like one of the few things. Like,
Roe wanted more Star Trek in the Star Wars. He said that on the 10 things I hate about Star Wars.
Or like other people have been saying, like Blade Runner.
Yeah,
no,
are you
just
talking
the
about
look of it?
The actual restaurant or the red light district area with the little bubble?
No, the actual inside of the brothel, the bar area, the woman that he speaks to, who's the bartender there when he first walks in, like all of that. It almost, again, the aliens look, there's something very specific about the way the alien characters look in Star Wars, and those looked almost more sci-fi than it did fantasy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, the bar was empty. It was a slow night.
I know that. Thanks. Does that have to do with anything?
Did you want to see more ass or something? What? I don't know.
No, that's not what I'm saying. For once, I'm not being gross.
For once, I don't want to see.
For the record, if they kept the story good, I would so watch 5 seasons of Andor. Like, they set this 5 years before Yavin, which would have been 5 years before Rogue One. If they could, this dude's a spy and a saboteur and an assassin. He's all those things. I would watch 5 seasons of that.
Yeah, there's so many different stories
with K2SO.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
I'd watch the shit out of that.
All right, before we get further, I want to make 2 announcements. The first one, if everyone is watching in the chat here on Saturday, actually, I think it's up. So we have a TeePublic sale that is going on right now and tomorrow, the rest of the weekend. If you guys go and make some selections and purchase some Scarif t-shirts, and not only Scarif, we got other friends of the Red 5 network. We've got other Red 5 pods on there. Check out the link, and I pinned
get your Red 5 Tavern shirt.
Absolutely. I pinned the link to the chat, the top of the chat. So use that link. Put in Save the Dream as you're exiting your checkout code, and save 30% on all your merch. So head on over there. Use the link today and tomorrow for 30% off.
Still haven't put it up yet. That's nice.
It's nice. Very nice. So that's the first announcement. Save the Dream. TeePublic sale. Go get some Red 5 Network merch. And use that link that's in the chat. And then the other announcement is hold on a second. Let's put this back over here. Andrew made me remind folks that we are.
He made you.
Well, the Red 5 Network Parsec Awards is coming up soon. Please check out. Go follow Parsec Awards on Twitter, and make sure that you nominate some awesome this year's everything from video games to TV series. There's a lot of stuff to check out. Check out the video, and I know Andrew has the Parsec Award account with this video if you need to jot some notes and make sure that that your qualifying nominees are available. So check out the Parsec Awards. Last year we had
Vote Brad. Vote Brad for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never won anything in my life. Vote for me. Give me my Fletzy Award.
We'll talk about that in the chat later tonight.
And we're also going to talk about Bix's boobs. Tina requested it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can use hashtag Save the Dream or hashtag Bix's boobs.
She did not beat Garza, though.
She did not. No one beats Garza.
That's right. Per the Scarif After Dark poll, Garza had the best reveal.
So, was it
I'll
the
take
second?
Bix.
That was it. The second episode. Getting back to the discussion here. The crash. That's right. Yeah.
Here you interrupt.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Interrupting boobs.
Continue.
So, the crashed ship. Do you recognize that logo?
Yeah.
What?
The crash ship on Canary when the kids went to go explore the ship.
Oh no! I didn't notice the logo
on the shoulders.
I was honestly working and watching and listening all at the same time.
Yeah, those were separatists. And it's interesting because it does seem like the Empire at this point are methodically eradicating all opposing forces, whether it's separatists, other systems, Jedi, obviously we know that. And
and don't forget they consolidated a lot of, because obviously Palpatine was playing both sides and controlling both sides, and a lot of the separatists were already working on the Death Star project before the Empire took over, so they kind of just swallowed them up.
Yeah, that's what she said.
All right, so we're gonna have a debate here between Garza and Bix's boobs. I don't know. If we can get them on the screen.
It's not about the boobs. It was about who had the best reveal.
Well, not in Bravo's. Bravo says Garza boobs greater than Bix's boobs. And Ro, you can keep your Garza.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take Bix.
That's fair. Fair is fair.
That's okay.
He wants Garza anyway, so that works out.
How did we get
derailed? You can't say anything in front of me. What's wrong with you?
We were talking about Bix's boobs, I guess.
See?
Oh, real fast. How do you guys feel about
usually? You know what I'm saying?
How do you guys feel about real world? Okay, let's talk about let's talk about the elephant shit in the room.
Who cares?
Are you going to get real serious? Because we were in a good place just a second ago.
All right, look, I'm a visual person. Okay, so for me, I told you guys on Twitter that didn't even register. Honestly, I didn't even notice that he said the word shit. It didn't bother me, and maybe because I
was. Who said shit?
You see, look, not even Brad picked up.
Who said
Scottish?
Shit?
One of the Scottish characters. Yeah.
He's not Scottish.
Yes,
the actor is Scottish. The actor is
Scottish.
Well,
you know what I mean. The actor is Scottish. Sorry.
Corporal Linus Mosk, when he was on the rooftop, and that little ship crashed because Cassian's friend sabotaged it, and he's trying to get Cassian, or he's trying to, they're trying to find Cassian, so he's on the rooftop waiting for Cassian to come out. Explosions are going everywhere, and he thinks they're getting bombarded, and he looks around and he goes, "Shit, we're getting attacked or something."
I thought I heard that, but I wasn't sure. But I'd rather them do that than some stupid ass made up Star Wars bad word like they used to use.
But you know what though? Okay, I texted somebody that that really wasn't into that, and tongue in cheek, I asked the question, do you think that Star Wars broke canon by adding the word shit when they already have their made up words like
those are so stupid.
Dank Ferric, and
those are dumb.
What was the other one?
That's the thing, like that.
They used to say by the Emperor's bones.
that makes me want to giggle, and this is not a show where I want to be doing any giggling because
That's a good point. That's a good
you know
point.
what I mean? And not only that, but like I said, I'm a visual person, so for me, the things that took me out of the episode, like I said, were the guy eating the blue noodles out of
Poodoo.
yeah, like that
You
makes
wanted
me
to yell
laugh. That
poodoo?
just
Yeah,
that sounds
that
silly
doesn't
and
work.
stupid. But the guy eating noodles out of a Chinese takeout box, like that took me out of it. And believe it or not, the guys doing the welding or whatever, their uniforms look like construction worker uniforms that you would see here on Earth. So, like, those are the things that take
Sounds
me
like
out
you're
of it
down to a
more than the
9.4,
language.
9.3 area.
9.5. That's it. Those are my 3 bugaboos. That's it.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? Yeah, I when The Last Jedi came out, one of the things that caught my eye when it comes to the language, the real world language of Star Wars was cops. And cops, obviously, coppers, police, it just threw me off. And they do say cops
Yeah.
in the brothel here, but they also throw in, because they are corporate police, they throw in corpos, and they call them corpos. And I think they should have left corpos and then just eliminated cops. I get your points. I get both of your points. I wouldn't have been as excited to hear poodoo. I would have giggled too instead of shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but I think
I
for
don't
me,
know.
it's kind of like it's an interesting fine line. I'm
I
fascinated
don't know.
at
Han
myself
says,
for
"I'll
it.
see you in hell," in Empire Strikes Back. He
Yeah,
says, he
Are you,
says in A
right.
New
And
Hope,
it
he says in
it
A
didn't
New
bother
Hope,
me.
"I'm not in it for your revolution, man." Like that's like the most 70s thing that you could
Right.
say in a movie,
But
So
the revolution could apply to
it's him
anything. And
saying,
hell,
"Man, I'm not in it for your revolution, man." Like that terminology, "man," was being heavily used. You hear it. I
right,
hear it
sure,
in plenty of 70s movies. That
right.
to me is
I got
70s
you.
the only
jargon.
reason they made up words back in the 90s is because Del Rey wouldn't put it in their books. Del Rey wouldn't put shit in their books. So they had to put stupid crap in there. They literally speak 99.99% of the rest of the English language. So why
Mhm.
can't they use our
Exactly.
curse words as well?
And again,
That's
it's
dumb.
one word. They didn't say fuck. They didn't say something that was like so obscene, So, and it was used once. I really don't think it's something to get so
Bent out of shape.
bent out of shape. And again, this has been marketed, in my opinion, towards adults. I have never from the beginning felt like this is something that a 5-year-old should be watching anyway. So if they use the one word of shit, and you got a 13-year-old watching this, that's fine. Who cares? They say worse at school, most
Sure.
likely. So,
What do you say to folks like Andrew that want to keep Star Wars as family entertainment? And I know I had this conversation with Cam on Twitter. I mentioned to him that the Star Trek fans are having a big doodad with F-bombs being dropped in some of the new Star Trek shows.
you see, I
They can
think
no
that
longer
word,
watch it with their families.
I think that actually does cross the line. And especially because I know Star Trek and Star Wars have never been marketed that way. But I think that there are certain words, unfortunately, and the F word is definitely one of those that I actually would not want to hear in Star Wars or Star Trek. So I can see why people would get bent out of shape for that
Mm,
one.
yeah,
But the one use of the word shit. Now we have 9 more episodes to go. I'd be curious now, or I want to see now, are they going to repeat it again? If this is the one instance in the entire series, I'll let it slide. If I hear it a little bit more, then I would say maybe that's a bit of overuse.
hmm Megan's got a question. Why can Pixar use curse words like damned and crap, but Star Wars can't? Well, damned and crap.
In
Crap is a
comparison to
derivative.
shit, yeah, I
Yeah, crap
mean,
is a derivative. Damn is just it's not anything special. You can be damned in a galaxy far, far away and here.
like I wouldn't want to hear the
Um,
word asshole uttered in Star
right.
Wars. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's a little different. I think.
It really does depend on the word and the way it's being used, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
Um,
Chewbacca went, "Roar," and then Han was like, he said, "You're a real asshole." I think that'd be pretty funny.
And R2 is cursing.
Oh yeah,
like
R2
crazy.
The entire
He's the
time.
filthiest mouth in the entire galaxy.
They have to bleep him every 3 seconds.
Exactly. You see, so
Fear will keep the local
Hey,
systems
so
in line.
if this is what we're arguing about, when I say we, I mean the Twitterverse or whoever. If that's what we're arguing about, I think maybe that's some progress. Those are stupid.
you know what? I gotta tell you,
those are stupid little arguments. So we can have those.
I have
Absolutely.
to ask you guys because we've had this discussion, Ro, in the Red 5 chat. That you guys do see a lot of the discord and the fighting and stuff like that between the two different camps, the super shills and then the fandom menace. Okay, so
you don't have to call Brad out like that. You don't have to call Brad out like that.
I said that I don't really see that because a lot of it has to do with the algorithm of social media, what you read, what you post, what you click on, whatever. So I get a lot of puppy videos and bullshit like that. Okay. So have you really seen a lot of fighting on social media with these 3 episodes having dropped? Because I got to tell you, I really haven't seen it. I think it's been pretty calm in comparison to Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it definitely has been calm. I don't see any major disgruntled accounts saying, well, maybe 1 or 2 disgruntled accounts,
but not to the level that we've seen it with the more established characters. And I think that's why Disney should probably stick to creating their own characters for Star Wars.
Sure.
I don't know. I haven't been on Twitter that much in the last few days, but when I was on there to check in, I didn't see much of any talk on Andor, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I didn't see.
I've been seeing positive stuff, honestly.
Well, it's interesting because I know a lot of people went into Andor cautiously optimistic. I have a group of friends that have been kind of silent, and I just texted them the other day. I said, you guys are pretty quiet, and we're already a couple days out from releasing 3 episodes of Andor. And one of them says that I haven't seen it yet. And I'm like, what? And you get into this argument too of Andor didn't do anything for me in Rogue One. I really, I didn't ask for Andor the series. I'm like, those arguments kind of are tiresome and bothersome. I mean,
do you ask for any of these other things that come out and you watch them? Exactly. So it's like, I hate, I'm with you. I don't like that.
But yeah, it's, it's
I'll take this over Solo.
Well,
didn't ask for Solo, still not asking for Solo. And I'm still okay if they don't make it Solo too.
Also as well.
I'm completely indifferent towards that movie.
I'm just things that bother me about Solo, the casting choice and L7.
She was pretty woke, but I thought she was pretty funny at the same time. Yeah. But now the whole human robot love thing, that was just awkward. That was just knowing where all her buttons were. That was just
although
that was weird.
Although I do have a favorite toaster, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh God.
All right.
We had a couple more discussion points from Twitter, didn't we?
Real fast. Somebody in the last episode, when one of the corpos gets hurt, in the background, and it's really cool if you hear it in the headphones, in the background, somebody yells out, "Bacta!"
I heard about that. It's so funny. Oh my God.
All right, I'm going to read a couple of Twitter comments. No Zoop for You account says, caught the first episode of Andor, really digging it, different vibe, better character building and acting than most every other Disney era Star Wars. This was well planned out. Absolutely, we said that. Definitely well planned out. Same account, no Zoop for you. Just watched episode 3 of Andor. Going to make a bold statement, but that was the best thing Disney has put out since Rogue One, Mandalorian included. Quality acting, directing, cinematography, writing, all of it.
Okay. I don't want to jump the gun because we're not done with the whole season, but I definitely actually do like it slightly, maybe a little bit more than Mando, because there are still parts of Mando that can be a little goofy.
I definitely like it more than Mando. I think they are overdoing it with Grogu.
Yeah. Sorry.
You see how many bumper stickers are out there with Grogu? They're not gonna.
Yeah.
They're not gonna get off the
Grogu feels like
train.
such a marketing tool for Disney, and I think that's why I have a problem with it.
Okay, here's one that I sent to Brad, and I think we're gonna.
Is it the blue milk one?
Yeah, blue milk.
Yeah, I'm reading this one. I'm still trying to make sense of it.
Andor is like a cheap HBO Max knockoff of Star Wars that tries to be edgy and mature and fails to capture the kid-like innocence of the franchise. And when I sent this to you, Brad,
you sent me another. You sent me another one from Blue Milk.
Well, when I sent this one to you, I said this is an extreme version of Nick's comment.
Yeah.
This was an extreme version of Nick's comment regarding wanting to keep Star Wars the same and innocent and childlike, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I think the reason why people keep saying that is, and I hope this doesn't sound rude, but just because you saw Star Wars as a child doesn't mean that it was actually meant for children and meant to be childlike. And I think that that's where the problem here might be with this show being too adult, is because I myself watched the original trilogy as a very young kid on TV. So of course, when I watch the original trilogy, yeah, I agree. It does take me to that childlike state again, but that's only because I watched it as a kid. I still don't think this was necessarily geared to one target audience, because again, everybody went to go see it. So I think that might be actually the issue with coping with the fact that this is a little bit more mature and more adult. Because we all watch this as kids. So psychologically, it just takes us there.
So Backyard TARDIS says, honestly, I get what you're saying. And he's responding to something I texted him regarding the fact that I feel that this is a step towards the future of Star Wars storytelling and how different it is. And he says, honestly, I get what you're saying, Ro, but I don't want Star Wars to evolve. I want it to feel like Star Wars in the 70s. And if they can't deliver that, then just make some new property. And I think, Brad, you had kind of paraphrased that.
Of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you can make it feel that way still, but still be able to evolve. Is it the look that you're talking about? Because to me, so much of what makes Star Wars is the look and the sound of it, maybe not necessarily the story. So I still feel like you can have the story evolved, but still keep that look.
So Anakin killed a village of sand people. He killed a room full of children. He choked out his pregnant wife with the Force.
What is childlike about that?
Where's the kid stuff there?
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean,
episode 1 is the only, and George said this. Episode 1 is the only one that's kid-like of the 3, because that's what he wanted to do.
Django's head. He was freaking decapitated.
Yeah, there's nothing. So I don't know where this is.
Because we watched this stuff as kid.
Kids. Right. And, nostalgia, rose-colored glasses, the inspiration that spearheaded our journey to a galaxy far, far away. I mean, it's all there. It's all present.
Return of the Jedi was pretty kid-like. It had the Ewoks and stuff like that.
Right.
But Empire Strikes Back was a very adult movie. There's a kid can't make it 10 minutes through Empire Strikes Back. That's the kid can't relate to Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, I remember watching as a kid and being somewhat kind of scared watching Empire Strikes Back, especially when Luke is doing his walk and sees Vader. I mean, it's
Yeah,
you really think about it. It's an intense. I mean,
heavy.
Empire is heavy.
It's pretty heavy.
All right, so this comment from Blue Milk and Cookies. You guys tell me what this means, and Ro, maybe you can put this one into context. Modern society's backwards approach to, quote, humanizing a story is ridding the idealism and innocence of the original IP. Andor is the perfect example of such a misdirection of what Star Wars represents.
Read that top one again. Read it again. Read it again.
Can I read it again?
Modern society's backwards approach to humanizing a story is ridding the idealism and innocence of the original IP. Andor is the perfect example of such a total misdirection of what Star Wars represents.
And I think that was the quote actually that was a little more harsher than what
I think that's
what Backyard TARDIS says.
So
I think Blue Milk Cafe is talking about bringing the grit.
That was Blue Milk and Cookies, not Blue Milk Cafe.
Oh yeah, Blue Milk and Cookies. Sorry, Jeff.
Right, Ro.
Yeah, I think he's talking about originally George Lucas, we all know why he did it. Fables, fairy tales, hope for youngsters, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what he's talking about is that he does not agree with bringing so much realism into Star Wars. The grit, I guess the adult themes and that sort of thing that kind of dilutes the innocence of what Star Wars originally represented. And obviously my deal is that I disagree with that, because I think Star Wars needs to evolve. And I think this, the sequel trilogy was an attempt to have Star Wars evolve. It did not work.
Right.
If they went with Andor, if they did Andor as part of a sequel trilogy, it is so different that I feel, based on everyone's comments so far on Twitter and in the chat and with people that like it, I think it would have worked a hell of a lot better. So I would have to disagree with his comment. And I know, I know people want Star Wars to kind of like stay in that sweet spot, but I think it's got to change sometimes. It's got to change a little bit.
You got to face the fact that you're not going to be able. I just don't think you're going to be able to recapture that magic. There's a reason why lightning doesn't strike twice when it comes to TV and movies. You know what I mean? Like,
thank you. Oh, thank you for this. Sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
It's this. I've been thinking about, as you were talking, Ro, and JT's saying something here. I don't know, unless you guys get Ro, you probably maybe have a quote in your head. If Star Wars, okay, so let's first take a look at the name of the movie. It's about war. It's about war. All right, so this is a galactic wide war. Okay, so not normally a kid's topic.
Yeah.
I don't know if Star Wars was ever supposed to be for kids. Now, because of George Lucas's directing and his writing, right? Which Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher talked about so many times, it ended up being relatable, or kids could relate to it, and they enjoyed it. I don't think George personally ever intended that. I think he wanted a serious, as he called it, space drama or space opera. I think maybe the words he used. And I think he wanted to be serious. It came off.
Right.
It's like because of George's influence. I think if you had Francis Ford Coppola directing the first Star Wars, it's a completely different story.
Sure.
It would have been very serious, and maybe would have had the appeal to kids, but I think that's what George intended. And then I think when Empire came along, we finally, because George didn't direct it, Irvin Kershner did.
Yep.
We finally got to what George was going for in the beginning. So this whole argument about Star Wars is for kids, I think is completely misguided. I don't think it was ever supposed to be. That's George Lucas. That is the limitations of his directing and his writing ability that it comes off childlike. He makes characters like Jar Jar Binks that come off childlike, but this is about war. This is about death. This is about loss. These are all adult themes. And so, yes, like Shanti said, we all loved it as kids. But it was never, I don't think, in my mind, ever intended to be a kids movie.
Right.
Sure.
And I think now we're finally getting the original intention of that. Yeah, it had some universal themes in it that kids can relate to, but I think it was supposed to come off. You had classically trained actors like Alec Guinness in this, and Alec Guinness, he wouldn't sign up for a kids movie.
Right.
He had decades of serious movies and plays that he had been in by that point. And even if you look at the interviews that Alec Guinness, he's like, I read the script and I thought it was kind of goofy.
Right.
But I couldn't help myself. I kept turning the pages, and that's why I signed on for it. So I don't. Alec Guinness doesn't sign up for a kids movie, nor does Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
Harrison Ford's not going to sign up for Mark Hamill.
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing. Yes, thank you. These are actors that are not signing up for a kids movie. Now you have Mark Hamill, who was a nobody at that time, who would have signed up for anything.
Right.
So I think the whole conversation's misguided. I don't think it was ever supposed to be for kids. We just all happened to enjoy it.
Well
and we all happen to be kids.
Right.
At the time.
Yeah.
So.
So there.
Great points, everybody in the chat.
Thank you, Melanie. Look, you had burning. Burning aunt and uncle. Like that was. I was.
Thank
terrified.
you. I mean, come on, man.
you like the graphics sucked in the first movie, but you had these burning skeletons that you could see clear as day.
With the lightsaber. You see blood splattered on the floor. I'm sorry. Like I don't just because it was filmed in the 70s and the 80s and for my generation that we watched it, a decade or so later. Okay, fine. I can see where it seems more childlike because now at that point technology had already evolved so much and we were looking at to see something now from the 70s, it might look silly, but I think for that time period, I mean, I think that would have been something that's pretty heavy to see.
Yeah.
I mean, like someone pointed Melanie, I think, Amanda. Leia's tortured by her father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's and it's worse in the radio dramatization. It's longer and more brutal.
So I mean,
I
really don't think it's as kid-like as people want to make it.
I mean, don't confuse George Lucas's abilities,
shortcomings.
his shortcomings with the intention of the movie.
Right.
I mean, you blew up. In the end, the good guys won, and they won by blowing up an entire battle station full of a couple million people. So,
and remember the makeup too. I mean, my niece, my youngest, when I showed her, I think Empire it was or whatever, she was a little scared of the Emperor, honestly, because he looks creepy. And I even remember kind of. I mean, I still watched, but I still kind of remember feeling it's like, oh my God, this guy is so creepy looking, I mean.
Absolutely. Excellent. All right. I don't, anything else you guys want to cover on Andor the first?
Yeah, I want to talk about one more thing that drove my score down, and that's the music or lack thereof.
Oh, dude, no way, man.
No, it needs more. It needs more music. Now, somebody in the chat, maybe a couple people in the chat said they like the music or they love the music.
Yes.
I no, don't care for it. There's not enough. There's so many. Again, watch a Star Wars movie. Now, take away the music in it, and it's a completely different.
Oh, I agree with that.
So there are so many parts, and this is again why. To me, it doesn't feel very Star Wars like. There are so many times in the show where there is no music at all. And so it has a different feel to me that you don't have, John Williams.
Sure, right.
Right.
So, that's a great driver for me is the music.
Let me explain it to you, Brad.
Oh, thank you, because I can't relate.
You can't relate. Let me tell you.
So, wait, can you explain it to me?
Oh my God. Say chorizo.
Let me explain it. Let me explain it to you, white boy.
Explain it to me, please. Explain it.
So my theory is, and I was reading a couple of interviews with Nicholas Bertel, which I feel that his music, his addition to the Star Wars canon in Andor, with his music interpretation is impeccable. It's different. And it's different the same way that Goranson's Mandalorian music is. It's very tribal. We get the pinnacle of composers in the body of work that John Williams has given us for the original trilogy and the main Star Wars stories that we all know and love. It's up there. I know where you're coming from, but this story takes place so far off from that grouping. It takes place in the outer rim and the mid rim. You got Canary, whatever. It's a story about the rise of the rebellion and this one character. So I feel like a John Williams score would be too epic for the beginning of this story. And maybe that music will change later on when we start to see the Empire. We go back to Coruscant, we see Mon Mothma, we see the Senate, we see the Imperial Senate. So maybe at the end of this series, Brad, you and I can talk and we can come back to Scarif Live and see if your ideas have changed.
So first off, as far as locations,
to respond.
yeah. Now I'm just going to go old fashioned mansplain it to you.
Oh my God.
So, as far as locations go, in the original in all the movies, there was different music for different locales. Like Naboo had its own music, Endor had its own music, Tatooine had its own music, but they're all made by John Williams. And now this is a more serious, this is a darker show. But now think about scores like Padme's Ruminations in episode 2 or Anakin's Betrayal in episode 3, and put some of those darker scores in this show. And I think it comes off really awesome. Like when he killed those two corpos. If you had put some darker music, Williams-like music in there, I think it works really well.
Okay.
So that was the music, and / lack thereof was a major grade driver for me.
I didn't have a problem with it.
That's because I couldn't understand it.
You couldn't relate.
I could only understand the music, and I didn't have any music.
Yeah. It was in Spanish.
The music was in Spanish, and I couldn't relate. Those were bongos or something. I don't know.
Oh my God!
You didn't see Ricky Ricardo in the background?
Yeah, playing the Quattro.
Well, we got 9. Again, we got 9 more episodes to go. So let's see if
so let's
pump up jam.
I want to challenge everybody because we were there was some talk about this early on, and I know Tina and I discussed this on Twitter. But I wanna have people go back to the last 2 minutes of the last episode, the episode 3 entitled "That Would Be Me." This is where the stories come together. This is where the flashback of young Cassian and the present story of Cassian come together in a way that I mentioned it at the top of the show. It is such a brilliant way for these two characters. I mean, it's the same characters, but they're at different points in their lives that they converge. Even my son caught that. He was like flabbergasted. I was so happy that he noticed that. The two storytelling methods coming together at this one point, and that being obviously the end of the 3 episodes. But you can see that the two characters at this point, they're they're looking out onto the horizon. They're looking into their future, and we get to go along for that ride. And I think I want to ask all of our followers and people in the chat just to go back and just listen to the last 2 minutes of that sequence. You have these really long shots. What is that character's name? That police officer that kind of he seems like he's getting like second thoughts about stuff. That one guy on Morlano 1. I don't know what his name is.
The other Dick.
Yeah, the other guy. Ferrix? No, not Ferrix. Yeah, Ferrix is the planet. The Morlano.
Hey, also,
Karn?
just
Wait, the one that looks like Karn McLaughlin.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, I think all
Karn.
the acting.
Cyril
I think
Karn.
all the acting has been very good so far.
Acting is
in
solid.
this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solid. I agree.
Yeah. So, anyways,
There
go
are no
check
major
out,
domos.
no major domos. He popped up in She-Hulk.
That was for you, Shanti.
Oh my God! Was that him?
Yeah.
Is he really? Okay.
Yeah, he's in She-Hulk.
That sucks.
Sucks for
Talk
us.
about a show that's falling flat for me.
All right. Any final thoughts on Andor? First 3 episodes. I think we had some really great discussions and some wonderful points from our chat group. I think we're kind of all on the same level. Maybe a little back and forth on it, but it seems like everybody is enjoying it. And obviously, the Rotten Tomato scores are also up there, and some of the other sites that score these things. But overall, I think Disney has a hit on their on the horizon here with Andor.
It's a 6. I'm still giving it a 6, but I'm giving it an upward trajectory on that score.
Well, that's very good. That's very, very nice.
Do we get another episode this week, or am I going to be deprived of everything else till I?
No, it's
there should be an episode this Wednesday.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know. We might have to get together before I leave. Before maybe
a pre-recorded one.
Yeah, just we can do a live maybe during the week. I don't know. I would like to discuss one more if we can.
When do you leave specifically?
It'll be the week after, so I'll be here next weekend.
Okay, so we'll be able to discuss.
But I won't be able to be on the show next weekend. So
and we have our friend.
I can pre-record.
I think he'll be here live.
I won't be able to.
No, he won't. That's what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
So we might have to pre-record.
All right,
We can do that.
Excellent.
That's fine.
We can do that for sure.
I have no life.
Okay.
So
excellent. All right, guys in the chat, if you just discovered us, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. We do a live show on YouTube every Saturday, whether we're reviewing Andor. Now, obviously, we are Andor heavy because that's what's out. But we will also, talk about some other stuff in the nerd stratosphere, comics or movies or all sorts of dorky things. We have another show coming up on the Red 5 Network, the Red 5 Tavern. If you guys are into D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, check it out. This is what, chapter 8?
Yeah, there are a few shows in, and they got some serious decisions to make on this show. So it'll be interesting to see what they're between a rock and a hard place currently in that story. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
Excellent. So check out.
Thanks for all the love in the chat. Megan, I'll be gone for a couple months. I should be back late November, early December timeframe, unless our schedule changes. So these guys will hold the fort down in the meantime.
Brad.
We definitely miss you. And don't forget our TeePublic sale. Head on over to TeePublic. I have the link that is pinned to the top of the chat there. Check out some cool designs from not only us, but some of the other Red 5 Network channels. And I got to get more of the Red 5 channels in our shop so people can save 30%. Use the code Save the Dream.
Oh, wow.
As Saw Gerrera would say. But yeah, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, follow us on the socials. And if you just found out about the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, thank you so much for joining us on tonight's chat, where we distilled and talked about think I used the word distilled like 7 times tonight. Lovely
Replace
discussion.
hilarious.
Hilarious. Yes, there you go. Lovely discussion on Andor.
Thank you guys for explaining it to me so I could
You're welcome.
Relate to it.
I'm gonna.
You're welcome,
very good.
chorizo.
That's going to be his
We'll have to have a watch party while I watch this next episode so I can understand it as we go along.
Okay.
Watch it in Spanish.
Got it.
You know,
watch it in Spanish.
they actually do the Spanish voiceover, Diego Luna and Arjona. So that's kind of cool.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And she is the daughter of a very famous pop singer, which I didn't know, which is cool. I got my NS9 Star Path unit. Imperial.
You gotta put that close to the. I don't know what the hell that was.
It's an NS9 Star Path unit. Damn it.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I wasn't close to the camera. Got it.
All right. Since Brad is going out to sea, I'm going to let him sign us off as I show everybody my NS9 Star Path.
I'm out of the cone. Yay.
Oh, good. So happy for you.
Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I will miss you as well. Love every single one of you. And can't wait to be back on soon. And that is the Scuttlebutt